Particular road along the river would have been the old main street, the original main street. Ran between the castle and the monastic settlement, and like the swords, as you know it out there, only kind of expanded out that way when the English came in, or the Normans or that, you know. So that's just to remind you of that. And I think that you know, the monastic settlement was founded by Columkill, and I would imagine that he came in from Malahide and up the river. And these monks, like if you're ever, you know, in monastic settlements, they always pick beautiful sites. So you look up there, it was nice. It was nice, but it made me say. But if there's anything else, but we're going to go along with, like a few years ago when we used to have the bigger festival, we used to do heritage walks along here, and somebody used to dress up. But some bright spark have traffic going through the top of it now. So I used to stand at the top and talk. Can't do it now, getting knocked out of the car. So I've been on to the council to kind of restore it as a medieval walk. Yeah. And we just keep saying, oh yeah, we do that, you know, but we just have to keep shouting.
So we're dependent on you to get the word out there and give us a call for it.
Yeah. There used to be cars coming down here, but I heard someone saying that's the old schoolhouse. That was the junior school of the old borough school, which is up on the main street, which is now a pub. And I don't know if any of you know anything about it or not, but it was built in 1809 as a result of the Act of Union. And with the Act of Union, the borough of Swords was disenfranchised, which meant it lost its 2 members to Parliament. And everyone was kind of claiming money, so the powers that be granted £50,000 to build a school at the borough of the parish, or at the borough actually it was called, and it was for all the people in the town without religious distinction, which is something you have, like a whole can of worms like opened with that. But they got the money anyway, and the school was built in 1809. I'll try and keep it short. It's a very long, controversial story. And it was designed by Francis Johnston, who designed the GPO and part of our St Upton and St George's Chapel in Dublin and places like that. And there was what they call a body politic formed to govern it. But because Catholic emancipation hadn't come, they were all Protestant people and Catholics weren't allowed to be on it. But they opened the school anyway, but keeping in mind the poor of the parish were mostly Catholics, and there was no other school in the town. So they started off on all the children, and it was a great perk to get into the school, because if you got it, they got free coal, and there was a doctor on hand, and like I have old stuff that was taught gave me when we were moving out, like they had some card to put the children's hair and all this and all sorts of stuff. But it went on all right for a while until a new parish priest came to Culkill's Church, Father Carey, who had Culkill's Church built in 1827. But he decided he'd go for a while. The old church was there somewhere at the back of the Star. He said he was going to go for a wander up to the school someday and see what was going on. I think it's something like 1824. And he discovered that they were teaching the children, it's called proselytizing, I always say that word wrong. They were teaching the children Protestant catechism, in other words. So he got his back up. So from 1824 till about 1880, memorials were going back and forward to sort out that problem. And it wasn't sorted out in Father Carey's time. But it's too long a story, like to tell you now. I did do a little book on it actually for a diploma that I did. But this school here was built in 1834, and it's called Tudor Revival Style. And it was supposed to be the junior school for the old borough. And they started off again, they said they wanted to try and get Catholic teachers into it, and they didn't, and they were fighting again. But it was never a school like in my time now, as long as I'm living in Swords. When I was a child, there was a family living in it, and then it's been a restaurant, and now it's called for quite a few years. But it's a nice building, and there's a lot more now stuff about that, But I just thought I'd tell you here while it's quiet and they get the chance. So if anyone wants, does anybody know what hot walliper is?
No.
Hot
Hot walliper.
Hot walliper.
No? Well,
Stick, this lady says. Stick or something?
So,
no.
No, is it people coming in that were calling?
Yeah, getting there, yeah. Yeah, it was actually, in other words, before the Act of Union, Swords had two members that they sent to Parliament in Dublin, where the Bank of Ireland is now. And towards the end of the 18th century, a man called Massey, who lived in Seafield House, put his eye on the borough. And he brought in a lot of veterans and planted them in houses in the town so that they would vote for him. So not to be outdone, the man Beresford that lived in Abbeyville, where Hoddy used to live, he was responsible for having the customs house built and the forecourts. He brought in some retired customs men and planted them around the place. The idea being, like in other words, they were trying to rig the election. In other words, so that they'd vote for them and they'd get in. But in order to be entitled to vote, you had to have lived in the borough. You couldn't be a Catholic either, I don't think. You had to have lived in the borough for 6 months and walloped your own pot, which meant you had to live there and so Swords got the name of a pot. It was called a pot walloping borough, which meant it was a rotten borough, in other words. It was rigged. So that's where it comes from. So there's a lot. Like we could stand here all day.
Yeah.
And Des wants to go for a walk.
Very good, Des.
And he wants to look at the match. Somewhere down there was a lady lived in a little old house, and she was found dead, and there was a whole big rigmarole all about it. But she'd been getting murdered every day now. But I used to hear my mother talking about it, and like it was the greatest scandal in the area because the fellow that was supposed to have done it, his relations are still around, and the woman that was murdered, her relations are still around. And I remember somebody in the Fingal Independent said it was going. I said I don't think they should. I think some of them were related to savages and people like that. So I said I'd leave it there, you know. But the only thing about this place, it was called Gallows Hill, which was where the Archbishop in the castle had his gallows, because he had the right to try people, you know. So that would be the only thing of interest here now that I know about it, you know. The castle, the Archbishop was like a feudal landlord. He wasn't like archbishops as you know them today. Like he lived in the castle and he was responsible for acres of land all around the place, and he had the right to try people for sheep stealing and all this kind of thing. And the gallows Hill. Well, this down here, this place is called Gallows Hill. And then the last one that's that. But I don't know, you know, I'll look further than Brackenstown and there's Brackenstown House, but you have information on it. You're not going to Oh, there, the moles were Yeah. You know, so maybe you want to go on. Okay. Helena Bird are basically so we have the Italian, the bike his car.
Just alone here. Yeah, now we could have made that a feature in the wall.
Yeah.
This continues on down here to the river.
Yeah.
And is it within about 40 yards of where Bernadette gave the talk at the old schoolhouse.
Oh, yeah.
So what we're trying to persuade the council to do is open this up so it makes the park more accessible to people.
Yeah.
But you won't have this crime out of it when you're finished your walk.
Yeah.
So that's it. So
Why was it called the Jackal?
yeah. Pardon?
Why was it called the Jackal?
Yeah,
I don't know. As I said, I've lived in Swords all my life, and I've been research, and we do oral history. I've interviewed millions, but nobody has told me why it's called the Jackal. But the right name for the river is the Ward River.
Yeah.
Although they call it the Pell and Swords, or the Pill. But the Pill is an old English name for an estuary, and you get lots of pills in different towns. But the Ward River is taken from Norman times. There was a garrison of soldiers that comes from LaGuard.
Oh.
That's so they say. Yeah. So it's the Ward. The right name is the. It's called the Ward River Park, isn't it?
Yeah. River Valley Park, yeah.
So the Jackal, like how far back does that name go then?
It's just
this century, isn't it?
it's just this particular part up here where because I interviewed Miss Barney Gallagher now on a video say about 15 years ago, and she lived in the cottages up there, and she said yeah we always swam in the Jackal, and I said why she didn't know why it was coming. And I asked her one time, she didn't know what either.
It was locally known by some of the older people. Like it was a broadening of the river a bit, and it was a little bit deep. When I say a little bit deep, 4 or 5 feet, it was called Jackal's Hole.
Maybe, maybe after some
He would have been the force of the swimming.
So there's no way down that way. That comes out of there.
It comes out at the river.
But you can do it.
No, you couldn't know. So that's what we're trying to. I know. Like, a few years ago. The land outside the own. On the far side of it, on the far side of the river, they have right to that. Dependent on the development.
Oh, yeah, and I've tried that fence.
But they are negotiating.
Right away for so long. Yeah. But I think they have somewhere they can get through as well.
Oh, where are you?
You can get video of this one.
No, the last time we done it was Donegal playing.
You don't get it. That's what I said. I did. Jordan's all right.
Oh yeah.
Might come up. We're going to say you might come up beautiful. So watch it. Yeah, you're witness, right? She stopped herself. This is her hair. The story of Colin Kill. He was born in Donegal and he was of royal blood, but he was sent, as was the custom at the time, to the local priest to be educated, and he was very holy, I suppose, for want of that word. And the other children used to say, when he'd be coming along the road, his right name was Dizon. And the children used to say, here's Colin Kill, the dove of the church. So he always went by Colin Kill or Columba, which is Latin. And it's really a nickname. But he never used his other name before. But he's responsible for building several monastic settlements all around the country. Like there's Cullenkills, wells and places all over the place. But he's reputed to have come here and, well, we think he did. So, and the monastic settlement is above, and there's a round tower and a square tower, which if any of you haven't seen before, it might be worth having a little look. Okay? Yeah. Now somebody was talking about the pump. The pump is an ornament. The county council's rules are now that they don't have water in them in case they're contaminated. Yeah. So they're just left there as ornaments. So that's why there's no water in it. But the one was up the
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. But I think yes, I was talking to somebody here one time who there used to be a constabulary barracks down there in 1798 and that, which is knocked down now. And in the 1920s, I was talking to this woman, they used to live in rooms in it, and she said they used to get their water there. And then eventually, I think probably the pump beside the well was probably a modern form of plumbing, like at the turn of the last century, you know. So there's another one up there at the Lord. You walk past the Lord Mayor's, as I understand, and at the back of the Lord Mayor's there was the local handball alley, where Liam Hearn knows all about that. Where is he gone? Is he upset? Yeah, we've all these pictures of Liam and his pals playing handball in the handball alley. But it was known as O'Toole's pub, and it was the site of, they used to call it the turnpike because it was the site in Swords where you paid a toll to go in out in olden times, and the other toll was down at the end of the town at Scottstone Bridge. So that's another thing. So do you want to go back up there? Yeah. It's very hard. It's very hard to talk on the road. So you make your way up there and I follow.
Man behind you has a great view out of his window, hasn't he?
Yeah, yes, right.
Many people can look out of that.
culture they do all the time. You see, that's part of the problem. You start something like that, and then you have to develop it from there. You can't just say, oh,
structure. It wouldn't have been anything like this. But round towers were built at monastic settlements. It dates to about the year 800, and it wouldn't have been there in Columbkill's time. But the original door would have been 15 or 16 feet off the ground, and the idea being that they climbed up. It was kind of for safety, a watchtower, and they were watching the invaders coming in from Malahide and that. You see, so doing and I say like that, the ground came up. I don't know, but you've probably heard that saying, the siege mentality. That's where it comes from. Like they went in like if they were invaders, and they went in and they went up onto the next floor and they pulled the ladder after them. And then I read somewhere where the local chieftains used to give their valuables to the monks for safekeeping. So I was giving a talk to some crowd one time that were kind of commercially minded. So I told them that was the first bank and so on. And there's a cross on the top, which wouldn't have been on the original. It was put on somehow by a director in the 17th or 18th century to prove that the tower was of Christian origin rather than pagan. But there wouldn't have been a cross on the original, and I don't think that those windows wouldn't have been as big, like it's all. But I don't ever remember anyone being able to climb up there. We used to be able to climb up the other one, but it's not insured anymore. So if you want to go around, I was going to open the church. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we're ready, you know. Yeah. If I had a penny there are old sketches of the plastic. I'm only 60 years here. Like that. When they talked about building a new church, they sort of built a park of that, you know. And there was a lot of, I had somebody I read every night, like they had divine services held in the school while they were building the church. And Francis Johnson is refusing to have designed this as well, you know. But it's a nice little church, and there's lots of funny stories about they were trying to get sponsorship for all the pews and all the people in the great houses owned and stuff like that, you know. So you can go in and have a look. Yeah. Huh? You want to go?
No, go to the
Yeah.
donde tenía que tener una selección de arte sin azar y en Dublín. Aquí solamente esta época desde que tienen que pagar para hacerlo, es parte del festival de esta semana. Que nadie sabe nada, porque no tiene información. Get your information.
He is, yes.
No, actually, you have it there. Yeah. He was the Sweetmans were a family who were brewers in Dublin, and they had breweries in Hawkins Street and Cork Street or somewhere. But in 1798, this man became involved in the United Irishmen, and he was a friend of Wolfe Tone's, and he helped a man called Rowan Hamilton or Hamilton Rowan escape well, I don't know where he escaped to, but they came from Raheny, and that's the Foxfield is the address that's on that, which used to be the old Sheeling Hotel.
That's right, yes.
And he's supposed to have helped this fella escape in a boat from Baldoyle. And then the soldiers came into his office in Hawken Street and arrested him. And he was taken away to Kilmainham, and then he was in some jail in Scotland. And then he was in political exile in Paris, and which meant he wasn't allowed to come home. But he kept in touch with what was going on in Dublin. And in the meantime, they're all gone. In the meantime, the Archbishop of Dublin, who was Archbishop Troy at the time, decided he wanted to build a cathedral for the Catholics in Dublin. And they had a committee going, and they bought the site in Marlborough Street because they weren't allowed to have it on. It was meant to be where the Gresham Hotel is, but as I said, it was before Catholic emancipation and they weren't allowed to have it there. But they bought this site in Marlborough Street, which belonged to the Earl of Tyrone, I think, because all the gentry, after the Act of Union, the gentry all moved out of Dublin because the Parliament was in London. And all these houses became derelict, although you see. So they decided they would have a competition for a design of the cathedral, and it was advertised. And this Sweetman fancied himself as an amateur architect, and this plan came in from Paris, and it won. So they maintain that he's responsible. Now you get a book in the property that says he was responsible for building the cathedral, but somebody else said no, that he sent it on for some other guy in Paris who was Napoleon's architect, and because Napoleon was fighting with England, he was afraid to send it. But John Sweetman says it is right, because it's very, the design is very like some church in Paris. So, no, John Sweetman, and he's very yeah, well this was the last second birthday, and then it was straight away from by the Church of Ireland. Okay, yeah.
Still, he died when the Protestants were here.
Yeah.
But he still chose to
Oh yeah, well there's some people now person that still buried here. Some people get buried here. There's some of the old families still get buried here. You know. But
would that be usual, or would the majority of the people be buried in a Catholic?
But there were no Catholic cemeteries. There were
not?
No, until Daniel O'Connor got cracking and started Glasnevin.
In what year?
What's Glasnevin now? Prospect, yeah,
It was
but
called
that was
Prospect.
1829 or so.
Thereabouts,
Isn't it?
yeah.
So before that there was no.
There wasn't, no. And you see, this is why I think Taylor got funeral there, because that's the Taylor grave there now, it's all covered over, and it's 1725. And the peculiar thing about Taylor's grave is, it says you have that written down, have you marked it there? It's James Taylor, but it says it's 6 feet long and 9 feet wide and situated north of the altar. And it's a very funny thing, and I've had several people on walks that I thought knew more. I had Rob Goodbody, who's a planner, and several people like that, and they couldn't give me a logical explanation. But one fella said maybe they gave him a bit of paper with instructions to where it was to go, and he wrote it on the headstone, but I don't know, you know. But it's an archaeologist, Leo Swan, now that died, he used to be out here a lot. He footed around. He said it's definitely not north of the altar, so it must be north of the altar in the old church. You know, and the other.
Imagine that should be north.
Yeah, but you see, that's there since before that church was built.
Yeah.
You know, and this one here is to a man called Moffat, who's the headmaster in the old borough school, who was doing all the skullduggery and doing the kids out of their money and all like that. And when I had the FOSS project, we cleaned it off. And when we cleaned it off, we discovered another inscription on the top in a kind of lettering that I think is from a century before, to a Reverend King. And I remember I researched something about a church in Clochran, and it said that the Reverend King was buried in Swords. So you can assume that this Moffat was plunked into somebody else's grave, because he was supposed to be. There was a lot of controversy went on about that school, and that he was like there were.
I suppose over the years, lots of people were buried on top of other people.
They were.
Like it was here since what,
1818. This church.
No, but the actual graveyard.
Oh, this would be here. The ones inside of 16, 15, 58.
Before that, before that, were the people buried
And they're new graves, Bernadette.
Yeah, they're They are.
And what would give you just the Protestant people have the right to be buried?
Yeah, they
there?
have that written up on the wall in there, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely
So
spot.
is
isn't it?
Lenehan or Prospect or whatever the first cemetery ever? Anywhere in the country?
In Dublin,
In
it would be.
Dublin.
Well, I say there were a few old, the small ones around churches and that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But the one like in Cullenkills that only started when the church was built, and that the site for that was given by the Taylors of Souls House. You know, there's another one down over there to a family called Dunn's. Now they sponsored one of the stations in Cullenkills Church. They were Catholics and some of them were nuns, and that one got buried there because there was
I
no.
never realised that. That's
Yeah.
something new I learned
There
today.
you are now.
There's
So.
no headstones. People couldn't afford to put up headstones.
No, yeah,
Headstones are
no.
relatively new.
No, because we did a survey here with some of the lads on the bus, and Alice's husband was alive, and he said, "You haven't got our grave in it." And I said, "Well, have you headstone?" No, I said, "We were only doing headstone inscriptions. How else would we know, you know?" And a lot of like if they worked in the great house or that, sometimes now the Cobbs of Newbridge would put up a stone to the gardener and things like that. But ordinary people didn't have headstones. No, because somebody, Mommy said that my father told her that some of the Marxists now are buried around there, but there's no headstone. You know. So the Russell Cruises of Dryman House, they were another Catholic family. Their headstone is over there on the tree and it's falling down flat, you know. But like
What was their name?
Russell Cruise. Yeah.
Is that
And was
double
that
barrelled?
lady, was she the rector's wife? She was.
Who?
That lady
Alice?
was just a caretaker.
No, she's a caretaker. No, the rector's only youngish.
All right. And where does he live?
Big house down there.
saying she's there 60 years.
Who lives in the little?
The old vicarage is supposed to be home.
Sure isn't there? Jeez, that looks like I have two big web.
Yeah, it does.
It does, doesn't it?
Escape from the circus.
Mum, we go and get something to eat or
I need a
something.
drink.
A cup of tea now, I'd love.
Yeah. We'll go into your place, the Star. Is that what you call
Yeah.
it?
Probably be packed.
It will be. Or it might be 4 to 5 now. But sure, if it's too packed, who's that?
Go
for?
somewhere else.
I'll be all watching the match.
Oh, that's right, the match will be on.
Hi, John.
He is a bit like John, yeah.
Not him, though.
He looks like he's going to work or something.
Benton where he's going.
Oh, that's the parish centre, is it, Bernadette?
That's there, the Protestant school. Yeah.
Oh, very good.
I'm going to see these graves.
What's that, Plunkett, is it?
Plunkett, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Very
stop.
off the same.
It's a novel, like,